Slavery is a way of life, a choice, a decision, a preference. It can be whatever it may be, but it isn't greedy and it isn't wrong. The reality is how you view things, how you see slavery to be more specific. Slavery is just a mere perspective. If I'm not mistaken, perspective differentiates from person to person. Northerner to southerner, brother to brother. Why, that's why I see people causing such a big dispute amongst themselves. Because they don't see eye to eye. Because they cannot make the impossible possible. Because they're human, stupid, arrogant beings. It was August 26, 1855. The clouds of cotton waved as a hot wind blew in its face. All I could see was white dotted with the backs of blacks along the rows of plants. It gave me great joy to see such a success in front of me. After Eli Whitney created the cotton gin, everything's been going smoothly. And it was thanks to him and his invention that my money grew as the early 1850s flew by. The slaves kept coming as the cotton kept growing. I guess I should have given my thanks to the slaves too, for making my success possible, thanking them for spending their hours working the gin on those dry hot days. But then again, why would I thank someone for living out their purpose in life? It's as if we should be responsible for thanking the cattle to eat the grass on the ground. It's purposeless. My plantation was a great accomplishment. It was, in fact, you could say, my proudest achievement in life. I loved it. I nurtured it, so it could then nurture my pockets with overflowing money. Every little slave, fiber of cotton, and ray of sun contributed to this unimaginable beauty. One small mishap, and my plantation would lose its good fortune. Even the Missouri Compromise couldn't stop me. Even if I lived in one of those states declared free, I wouldn't care. Slaves are slaves, and white men own them. As I made myself comfortable, resting my elbows on the arms of my chair, rocking back and forth while taking in small puffs of tobacco from my joint, I looked upon the many acres of cotton. The plants stretched out from as far as the eye could see, and coming closer to the picture was my son, Jackson, his skin a deep red, burnt from the sun. His clothes were clung to his body with sweat. In one hand he held a long whip, while the other was clenching onto his diaphragm. He's gone. Never had I imagined that these 3 words would fill me up with so much ferocity that I could barely contain. A scream emanated from my throat, along with anger, bitterness, and hatred. I clenched my fist so hard that my nails dug deep into the palms of my hands. I held my hands to my side, letting them swing back and forth. The warmth and redness from my cheeks escaped as I breathed heavily. I could feel my color rushing back into my face. My fingers unraveled from its ball. Which way did he go? I let out as calmly as I could manage. Jackson turned to the side. You ain't deaf, boy. I don't have to talk straight into your ear, do I? Turn your body around and look me right in the eye. He didn't respond. The only noise I received from him was the puffing of his breath. I looked at my hand. Smack. He whimpered, holding his cheek with his hand. I ain't got time for your stuttering, son. I raised my arm. This time, his forearms covered his face. He went north. I don't know where he wandered off to. I didn't see him working the gin, so I went up to his cabin. But I just see his cabin empty. No clothes or nothing. Must have been planning to run away for a while now. Must have been planning to run to the Underground Railroad. That's where I hear all the slaves are going. But I don't know where he went, Pa. I don't. Please, Pa. Please don't. My arm hung back to my side. Jackson let his arms down from his swollen face. Tear tracks stained his cheeks. I didn't raise no whip, son. You came here and speak to me like the grown man you're supposed to be. Stiffen your back and wipe those tears. You understand? Yes, sir, he sniffled, wiping his face with the back of his hand and stood up, his bloodshot eyes gazing up to mine. Good. Now get your horse, your gun, and your lantern. We're going to catch ourselves and run away. The sky was black, like his skin, like his soul. A few stars took its place in the darkness. They reminded me so of the rays of hope that Slave had, little but still apparent. It was quite humorous, actually, how in a society figurated to despise him, that he believed he still had an unforeseeable slight chance of escaping it. I let out a laugh, the first one I had in days. Keep moving forward. My voice echoed through the silence. The bounty hunters were starting to lose their pace. The air was then filled with murmuring and the treading of the horse's shoes. Pa, it's been almost 2 days, Jackson sighed. He wasn't even the best slave there is. We got plenty more and at home who worked twice as hard as he ever did. Crack! I pulled the reins, sending my horse on its 2 hind legs, a sound coming not from me or my horse, or from the bounty hunters or Jackson. It seemed as if it came from in front of me. Crack! A branch had been stepped on, I suppose, but not by a wild animal, not by a horse, but by a human, by a slave, by a runaway. Crack! 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 The sounds became more frequent. The cracking of branches were the only noise that filled my ears, the only thing my mind was set on. Instantaneously, the cracks were replaced by footsteps. Forward! I screamed at the top of my lungs. I lashed the reins with such force I almost heard a cry in the horse's neigh. I could hear the others behind me, their screams becoming louder as they became closer. I could feel the heartbeat of Slave. I could hear his footsteps as he stumbled. I could hear him gasping for air. I could feel his legs tire. Run, Slave, run, so the soles of your feet will be worn from the barren land they walk upon, so that your tears of anguish will water the roses in my garden. Run, Slave, run, until you can run no longer. As my horse's pace quickened, the others fell back behind. I had no time nor patience to put up with immaturity. Forget the others. It's just between you and Slave, I convinced myself. I slapped the reins harder and harder until we were going full pace. My hand felt unsteady while holding the lantern. Only one hand was holding onto the horse now. My hand holding my only source of light became clammy with nervousness. Smash! The tree lost its dark green, and darkness engulfed it. For a quick moment I felt a sense of weariness in my chest. Boom! The moment had ended. It was September 20, 1855. It had been weeks since Slave escaped. The only thing that convinced me to give up the search was my plantation. The neighbors had started to wonder about my whereabouts. The other slaves had become more hard-headed because of the influences of Slave's escape. Bottom line was that not enough cotton was being processed while I was gone. Already was my success dwindling. And every now and then I think of Slave. I think about if he is alive. And if he is, how much I want to wring his wrists with ropes and drag him back to work the plantation day and night with no rest in between. I think of the life he might be possibly living, a life of happiness, a life he doesn't even deserve.